All right. So, as we have discussed today, we have another fabulous session for you with our faculty. This session is going to be centered around new venture creation. So, without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to our amazing faculty, Professor Zahed Subhan and Professor Chuck Sacco. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey,
Hello,
how are you
Julia.
all? I hope you've all enjoyed the session so far. Can you all see me? Yeah, my video. Yeah, good, good, good. Okay, so I'm Dr. Z. You'll all meet me in due course in September, really. So today, Professor Sacco and I are going to take a little bit of a dive into a new venture creation and particularly focus on how you identify your customers. Okay. Before we go there, though, could somebody tell me the reason why most new ventures fail?
They don't have a customer base.
Very good. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else?
I guess lack of
Bad
proper-
advertising.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyone else? Why else? What are the reasons that startups fail? Because they fail a lot, right? 80% of startups fail within the first 5 years.
Timing.
Timing, very important point. Very important point. If you don't get the timing right, Airbnb is a great example of timing. Yeah. Airbnb got turned down by 80 investors. Think about it. 80 investors turned them down. Timing just wasn't right. And a lot of timing is more important than you think. Good answer. Anything else? Why do startups fail?
Someone said in the chat, give up too soon.
Give up too soon? Yeah, give up too soon. Yeah, very good. No money is a good one, isn't it? Right? Lack of financing. Actually, the first responses were overconfidence. Thanks, Naren. The first response was pretty much on target in terms of what we're going to do today. The biggest reason that startups fail is that there is no market for their product or services. Trustworthy team, we'll talk about that. Okay, so no market for their product or service. Think about that. You think if you have a startup or you start a startup, you're going to start it reasonably confident that there is a market for the product or the service that you're delivering. Amazingly, most startups fail because there isn't. And when you drill down into markets are comprised of customers. So you have to be able to name and know who your customers are. And that's what we're going to explore today. But we're going to explore it with a really unusual product and a really unusual company. My background is in pharmaceuticals and biotech. And I've started many companies, worked in big companies as well as startups. And here is one of my current companies. I'm going to share this with you. Think about that. Take a look at the slide and think about that for a minute. This company is developing a drug that will be hopefully a safe, non-hormonal, we'll get into that, it's not important for this discussion, reversible male pill. Okay. When we get to our groups, I would like them to comprise of girls and boys because I want different opinions on this. Okay, so this is a company, it's a real life company. It's a company that I started a few years ago now, about 4 or 5 years ago. We've raised about $25 million in funding, which is nothing in biotech and drug development, but we're able to do what we need to do for the time being with that money. Okay, so an emerging pharmaceutical company focused on the development of a safe, non-hormonal, reversible male contraceptive. This is going to be outside of your realm of experience. We're not going to talk about science. That's a whole nother matter. Okay, so let's take a quick look. Founders. There's me at the bottom there. These are the founders. Now, I put that up not just to show you that, because you don't know these people apart from me. But when we talk about new venture creation, we're going to talk a lot about this when you come to the close school. Obviously, the founders and your choice of founders if you have a choice of founders, is very important. Okay, and how you assemble that founding team is something that needs a lot of thought. Okay, so we'll talk about that and this issue in great depth, along with how you start to think about raising money for your startup, because there are different vehicles for doing that depending upon the type of startup it is and the stage of development that your product or your service is. Okay? So here is what I'm going to ask you to think about. We have a male oral contraceptive pill in development. Again, don't worry about the science. We're not going to touch on that today. That's a whole different ballgame. What we're going to look at is, how do you decide who your customers are? And some of you might be thinking, well, that's an easy answer. It's a male pill. It must be men. And that's true, but it's only partially true. So what we're going to look at is an exercise today where you look at a framework that can be applicable to any sector, any business, a startup as well as a mature business, that allows you to think deeply about who your customers are, number one, and what you want your customers to think about your product or your service. Okay, so this is the charge. This is what you guys are going to be doing in a few short minutes. Before we get there, I want to go through this framework, and we're not going to do it in great depth today. This is something, again, that we'll cover down the pike a bit. But there are 4 segmentation variables. By segmentation, what I mean is, think about an orange, right, as your possible customer base. What you want to do is look at different segments of that orange, and then hopefully you'll come up with some differences between those segments. And then you're going to think about, well, what do I want each of those segments to think about my product, my service, my company even? Okay, and these are the variables that we have. They're geographics, I'll explain in a minute, demographics, psychographics, and behavior graphics. Okay, what does that all mean? Now, I don't want you to do this. This is something that I would do in class. We don't need to go through it in that depth here. But let's take a look at each of these. Geographics, where are you located? An example might be if I asked you, do you live inside the city or do you live outside the city? Let's look at a topical example. If you wanted to get somebody's perspective on the COVID-19 vaccine or the COVID-19 vaccines, you might identify different segments based upon where they are in the USA, might you? There might be different perspectives in the Northeast as opposed to the South, for example. Different perspectives in terms of whether you have a propensity to vote Democratic or Republican, for example. Okay, so that's geographic, simply where you're located. It can be in a country, it can be in the world, it can be geography. Okay, demographics. This is a segmentation variable you would have heard about, things that could be described in terms of statistics. So whether you're male, whether you're female, whether you're what your age range is, they would be demographics, for example. A little bit more complicated, psychographics. These are things to do with your personality and your lifestyle. And we won't go into it in any more depth than that. And then the last one is something called behavior graphics. And behavior graphics is a segmentation variable that comes about when you think about what people actually do. So the example in this slide is, did you drink tea or did you drink coffee today? Or did you do something, did you have something else in the morning? Like, what did you actually do? Where do you shop? Would be a behavior graphic segmentation variable. Okay, so we've got these 4 variables. So write them down if you can't remember them. right? Geographics, demographics, psychographics, behavior graphics. Anybody got any questions on those? Okay, understand what, broadly speaking, what these variables tap into. Good. Which of those variables do you think are the most predictable in terms of what we actually do?
Behavior graphics.
What we actually do, right? Right? What you do, how you actually behave is the most predictive. And there's a little continuum here, right? You can start with geographics at the bottom. They're okay. You know, where you're located, what your geography is broadly is okay in terms of predicting your consumer behavior, what you're going to do. Demographics is good. Psychographics is a bit better. Personality, lifestyle are important in terms of your consumer behavior. But the best of all are the actions that you take. Okay. All right. So we've looked at those segmentation variables. That's not enough though, right? Just because you can identify different groups of customers, that doesn't really take you very far, does it? What you want to do is do something called positioning. And what positioning tells you is, okay, I've got these different groups of customers that I've identified using these segmentation criteria. What is it that I want them to think about my product or my service or my brand? Why is that important that we want to know what people think about your product?
Feel free to shout it out or write it in the chat if you don't want to unmute. Maybe not a peer leader.
Is it not important what people think about our product? What different segments think about our product?
Wait, what are we supposed to be saying?
What is it that you want different groups of customers to think about your product or service? Why?
Are we talking about... Sorry.
Why is that important?
Are we talking about like the product, this thing that you showed us before?
Any product or any service.
Oh, okay. Like, we want them to like it, so you want them to think it's good. And you probably want them to think it's like affordable.
Right, right.
Yeah, like good, affordable. Maybe it depends on like the product a little bit too.
And you might want to communicate to them different messages about your product depending upon what segment they fall into.
Yeah, so like if it's like, that's like what McDonald's does. Like they have different commercials in different areas showing, like their commercials will show something different in different countries based on like what they think the customers want and like what they want them to think.
That's a good example. Perfectly. So they are, what McDonald's are doing there is they're positioning their product. They're manipulating what they think people want in different segments. And then they're tailoring their messages and communication and marketing to those particular segments. Okay, that's what positioning is. But I'm going to give you an example of positioning. This stuff is sold in Europe. Okay, it's called Lucozade. And really it's glucose flavored, it's a glucose flavored drink. When I was a kid, they used to dish this out in hospitals. So whenever I was sick at home, my mum would put a bottle of Lucozade by the bed and I'd drink that all day till I got better. I was usually faking it, so I just stayed in bed drinking Lucozade. Over time, the company repositioned the product to be a sports drink, okay? And it was no longer anything to do with nursing or health or being sick. They completely repositioned the product. And they did that by identifying a segment where they could profitably reposition that product. And they rebranded it, they repackaged it, they advertised and promoted it and marketed it differently. and it reached a completely different set, actually, of segments. And this positioning or this repositioning, it's not static, it can happen over time. And I'm sure you can think of other examples where products have been positioned and repositioned to reach different customer segments over different periods of time. Okay, and this is that drink now compared to the medicinal bottle up above there. Okay, so when we talk about positioning, there's a couple of ways to do it, right? You can look at basically what are features of the product and what are benefits of the product. We won't go into this in any great depth now either, but the example there is these Force Flex trash bags. Okay, that product has certain features that are used to position the product amongst a particular target segment. So I get these flexi bags, for example, when I'm doing yard work. So the bags don't puncture, right? That is a feature of the product that positions it to a certain segment. Other products, and Movado is a high-end watch, for example, are not positioned based upon their features and attributes, but they're positioned based upon the benefits they're perceived to offer to particular target customers. Okay, so now you've got kind of an overview of the whole picture without going into any great detail. What I want you guys to do is to look at the product we talked about. It's going to be a male oral contraceptive pill, and think about who your customers are. Think about those segmentation variables and try and delineate, try and identify what different target customers might be. Once you've done that, I want you to go on to the next hard part, which is, what do I want each of those target customer groups to think about the male contraceptive pill? Okay, because at some point in time, I'm going to want to create messaging that is targeted to those particular customer groups. Okay, this is hard, but it doesn't matter. I wanted to come up with a real life but tough example for you that takes you down this road of understanding how important it is to not just know your customers, but know them intimately and know where they are different and how those differences are created by their geographics, their demographics, their psychographics, and their behavior graphics. And then for this particular case, for this male pill, I want you to take a stab at, well, what do I want those different target customers to think about my product? Now, don't get carried away. I don't need you to get into the science of all this. It's a drug, and there's a lot of technology and science behind it. That's not important for the purpose of this exercise. The purpose of this exercise is for you to start to take a very difficult example and think about it from the customer point of view. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is, I don't think I've got any more slides. No, I have not. What I'd like you to do is we're going to form some groups, and I'd like to have boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, in each of those groups, and you're free to use the resources of the internet and think about who your customers are. If you can, try and think about those segmentation variables that we talked about. And once you come up with some customers or some target segments, I want you to think about what you want each of those segments to think about the male pill. How does that sound? It's a tough one. Is it something that you think you're able to work on in the next, Julia, what do you think?
Well, it depends. Chuck, it depends on how much time Chuck will need, but we have until, Chuck, what do you need, like 30, 45 minutes?
Oh, no, not even that much.
All right. So we probably
15, 20 minutes for me.
So let's have the groups working for 20 minutes.
Sure. Yeah, we got time. We have until 2:15.
Yeah. And we got time. We don't have to fill it all. But what I want you to do is, use all the resources that are available, and obviously they're immense. And look at the potential for this product in terms of the customers and how those customer segments might be different. And if you were running this company, what would you want those customers to think about the product? Because what those customers think about the product is going to influence how successful the product's going to be. Okay? And that's why I would like to have girls and boys, because the easy answer, of course, is men. But it goes a bit deeper than that, doesn't it? Well, I hope you find out that it does. Make sense? Is this going to be challenging enough for you for the next 20 minutes?
I think so. Does anyone want to go back to that slide with the 4 segments? Would that be helpful for you all to take a look at that again?
I can go back. Okay, we'll go back.
So maybe anyone, if you want to just jot down what those 4 segments are, take a screenshot, whatever you got to do.
There you go. Okay, remember what we're talking about here. Geographic's very simple. Geographic, right? Where you're kind of located. Demographics, anything that you can describe with statistics, male, female, age, their demographics, income level, demographic. Psychographics, things like personality and lifestyle. And then behavior graphics, what you actually do. I'm looking forward to behavior graphics in terms of male contraceptives for sure. But you get the idea, right?
Cool. All right. We ready to go in our groups, everyone?
Yeah.
So, all right.
If we can, so what we're going to come back with, come back with whatever you want. This is not a class, right? Just come back with your thoughts. If you want to come back with something more, and if each group can maybe talk for, 5 minutes or so about what they found and what they thought, that would be terrific.
Cool. Maybe before you come back to the full group, think about your spokespeople who you want to talk. Have it be our incoming students and not peer leaders. Great. All right, I broke up the rooms. It should be 5 or 6 people per room. And I hopefully did a good enough job splitting up males and females. I think so. We have at least. Good.
And as I said, don't worry about, if you cruise into the internet, and don't worry about the science behind this. That's important, obviously, but it's not important for this exercise. Don't worry about that part. Just use it as a pretty tough, I have to do it, right? I'm one of the founders of this company. I had to figure out, well, we're developing a male pill here. Who's going to want it? And what type of people are there that are going to want it? And then what do I want those people to think about the male pill? Okay, so I'll be interested in hearing your thoughts.
All right. All right. Do we have any volunteers to go first? If not, I'm just going to call by peer leader.
I'll go.
Cool. Amanda, take it away.
Our group said that we'd have like a couple different audiences. So like for males, like teen males would be one, like 15 through like 19. And then like also like married couples. Mm-hmm. And then like doctor's offices one. And then like, so one thing was like the people that are in District of Columbia and like Arkansas have like the highest like teen birth rates.
Correct.
So you would like advertise it in like places like that as like a necessity, like you need like this kind of contraceptive. And then for like the teens and like just like the males in general, we would like it. Someone read that this you only have to take like once every like 20 days or something. So it would be advertised as like easier. And then for like the doctors' offices and stuff, you would advertise it as like safe and effective. That way they'll want to recommend it to their patients. And then for like for like poorer communities, like poorer areas, you would advertise it as like effective and affordable. And then for the like teens, you would also advertise that, and like maybe to their parents too, you would advertise like that male fathers have like that are younger have a reduced earning potential, and they're also less likely to finish high school. And then like say that like some women can't take or like have bad side effects to like birth control, so this is like an easier way for the male too. And then like there's some studies that show, like, this is just like some statistics that like like teen fathers, it like results in like prematurely born babies. And then there's another thing. Oh yeah, also they have an increased risk of depression, so you'd like show that.
Interesting. Good. Well, that was a lot of work in a short period of time. Very, very good. Nice work. Okay. Terrific. I'm not going to be.
Oh, sorry. We also looked at like the cost of having a child, and like how to married couples, like you'd say like how costly it is like when you have a child, because like they might not want to have more kids because it's a lot of effort and money. So that would be thing. And then someone also, I forgot to include this. Someone also had the idea of like putting like testimonials, like people who have like been like teen fathers or something, like in a commercial or something, and then talk about like their experience.
Amazing. Wonderful job. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Terrific. Well done.
And funny enough, that was group 1. So that worked out great. Group 2 is Ina and Sydney's group, if you all want to go next. And that is Naya, Cameron, Ina, Samantha, Sydney, and Zach, or Zachary, however you prefer. I think we've talked about this.
I'm the spokesperson. All right, Amanda said a lot, so don't mind me if I don't say as much. But for this pill, we want to make sure it's safe, easy to use, because especially men, we like things to be simple. We like to be reassured, so we like to know that it's 100% safe, and we can be 100% safe. You know, especially for the people that are nervous and don't know what they're really getting into. So that'll be really good for them. There's another way this product can go to is people who are really sexually active and plan to be out there a lot. So this pill, especially if you don't have to take it every single day, that'll be really good for those type of people. This pill can be used for married couples who already have a ton of children who don't want any more. So that'll be really good for them. This could be pill be used in many different places in the region, like Vegas, a ton of those places where that type of stuff is really be done. You also be put in some of the local pharmaceutical places like CVS, Walgreens, a couple of those stores. And the last thing is probably make it cheap and make it affordable, because we don't need to spend $400 just for one tiny pill. So just keep it cheap, and that's about it.
Very good. Good. Well, and what were there any differing views in your group, or any strong views?
Not really. We all came to think about this itself. We all have it written down right in front of my face. We all came together. We all typed it up. So this is pretty much all of our standpoints right there.
I'd like to add something to it though.
For sure.
Yeah, we also discussed that there are a lot of countries out there which are looking to effective ways to lower their population.
Mm-hmm.
And we could market it to the governments there, who could buy the pill from us and, give it to their people over there, like countries like India, where it's very important to lower the population.
Good point. Absolutely point. That's a geographic segmentation variable, Ananya. So very good. Nicely thought through.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great work, everyone. All right. So next is group 3, which is Anna and Matt's group. We got Connor, Gianna, and Janelle.
Whoa.
So here's our little presentation. So starting with the geographics, we thought to focus on the USA because of lacks of sexual education for men specifically. However, we do have the resources to be able to put it in schools and teach people about it. And we have that reach on people in the United States. Also for demographics, we said males ages 15 and up, primarily because 40 to 50% of teenagers in that age range are sexually active. We also thought about the females too. They might want to get it for their partners or for their children, like the other group said. So for the psychographics, what we thought of was a guy that's in a relationship and kind of wants to take the burden of having to take birth control for his partner, because female birth control has a lot of negative effects, or
good point.
Things like fertility can be effective and things like that. So if this is safe for guys to take and they don't have to worry about what it can do to their body or their partner's body, if they potentially want to have kids in the future because it is reversible, this is a good option for them. Also, somebody that's very sexually active, like the other group said, where they kind of have a lot of partners, and in heat of the moment, accidents can happen. And sometimes guys don't ask for like a female, like, oh, are you on birth control, before they make that decision. So at least they can be responsible for themselves and kind of layer it with like a condom that protects against STDs. So they can be responsible for themselves with that. And then for behavior graphics, we want somebody that's organized and responsible. And yeah, that's pretty much that.
So for the 2 questions, the first one being, who are our customers? Our customers are young men who don't want children for the time being, usually around the age 15 to 19, I guess. Parents who want to further protect their sons more than condoms will, because condoms are not 100% effective. And women who don't want to take female contraceptives due to negative effects, or cannot use female contraceptives due to hormonal imbalances or allergies. And then for the second question, we want our customers to think that it's safe and reliable, that it works great, and that it doesn't need to be taken frequently because the pill lasts up to 20 days. Therefore, there's no, or the schedule isn't as strict or worrisome. And the effects of the pill are reversible, unlike, say, a vasectomy. So we just want them to know that they have the choice to have kids or not have kids whenever they are ready. And that's it.
Good, great, terrific, well done. Nicely summarized too.
Love the graphics. Great job. All right, next is group 4. This is Ava and Zach's group with Dylan, Jesus, and Olivia.
So first, our group talked about how important it was to gain the trust of our customers in order for them to use the product without having any doubts. And for demographics, we talked about sexually active males, couples in general, or it could be any single male that are sexually actively seeking for the action. And then, so the age does not really matter. And then geographics, we talked about having it around colleges or urban areas, because those are more densely populated areas. And then psychographics, we talked more about cautious couples and based off their lifestyles and personalities. And lastly, for behavior graphics, we mentioned the responsibility of the people and like how often they have to take these medications, and then also considering the affordability and side effects of it.
Very good, good. Thanks for using the structure. Nicely done.
All right, cool. And then I think last but not least, group 5, that's Kate and Noah's group with Kashish, Noman, and Robert.
Okay, so for our group, so first for the geographics, we were like thinking people in urban areas because there are more sexually active people in urban areas, and like because of other like rural areas, there's a lot of like people who are like not allowed to have sex until like marriage. And then for the next one, we were thinking just like men, but there would be like men with girlfriends that are sexually active ages from like late teens to like early 20s, 30s, and they would have to be in a relationship. And then for psychographics, we were thinking for like we were thinking like people that know when to take their pills, like they know when to do it, and if they don't, we were thinking of making an app that like reminds you to take your pill. And for the behavior graphics, we were thinking a lot of people are sexually active, and like people who like they don't want to have kids like at early, so they should be using the pill.
Very good. Okay. Well, have I lost you? Oh, there we go. So that's great. Well, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed and learned something in terms of how you structure getting to know who your customers are, and particularly understanding what different groups of customers' needs might be, and how you then might tailor your communications and messaging to each of those groups. For those of you that are interested, the pill works by making sperm immotile temporarily. So what it does is it stops sperm being able to move. And those of you that remember your biology at high school will understand that in order for sperm to do their job and fertilize the egg, they need to move. So what the drug does is it temporarily inactivates that ability for sperm to move. And then over a period of time, that ability comes back, right? It recovers. So it doesn't mess with hormones at all. And any efforts to find a male pill historically have always messed with hormones, which is really what the female contraceptive does too. But that's not a good way to go with men. So that's how it works. In terms of where it is in development, we just put it into monkeys and gave them roughly a pill form of it. And for a period of 20 days, I think, they were infertile, and then it all came back again. So the next step for us is to get approval to put the drug into clinical trials in humans, and that will happen in the next 18 months or 2 years. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed looking at a real life off the beaten track example. The main thing is that you become skilled in knowing the importance of customers and understanding what those customers might need from your product or service, and what you have to deliver in terms of messaging to those customers. So I'm going to